Hello everyone, sorry for my bad English, I'm not a native speaker. You need watch the video, read the end. At first it seems to be something complicated to understand, but everything will make sense easily in the end. So, first, I'm just a competitive World of Tanks Blitz player, and today I'm going to present some basic, and first and foremost, scientific issues regarding the undeniable current failure of the World of Tanks Blitz tournament scene to attract new players and enthusiasts. I will approach this from a behavioral science and market study perspective so that Wargaming can achieve good financial returns. The first thing Wargaming must consider is that absolutely no human being will continue to do something repeatedly if there aren't two incentives. 1. The feeling of belonging. Every human being ultimately wants to feel included and belong to some group in any activity they undertake. Our evolutionary history has made us this way. Throughout our history, we have created social groupings both to help and to fight each other. Within these social groupings, each person fulfilled their role, whether as a hunter, gatherer, a Roman centurion, or even a 20th century nuclear scientist. We are all driven by passions and feelings of belonging somewhere. Henri Tajfel and John Turner developed the social identity theory. They experimentally demonstrated that the simple categorization of people into groups, us versus them, is enough to generate an enormous amount of behavioral incentives to stick with tasks for a long period. According to the theory, our self-esteem is linked to the status of the group to which we belong. This motivates us to act in ways that benefit our group, reinforcing our feeling of belonging and identity. And now I'll give a very recent example of something that perfectly illustrates the validity of this theory for attracting new players to a game. A huge number of Brazilians who were not Counter-Strike 2 players became players in a short amount of time. I'm not even a Counter-Strike 2 player, but when I learned that a Brazilian team was playing an important tournament, I went to watch it. Just like me, so many others who aren't even players rooted for a Brazilian team to do well in the game's competitive scene. At the moment, Portuguese speakers alone generated over 2.5 million views on the livestream. And guess what? I started playing CS2 after watching Fallen, a Brazilian player, play, and it's not anecdotal evidence. Brazilian Counter-Strike 2 server metrics registered 70,000 players in the first week after the tournament alone. I felt I could have fun competing and doing the same things Fallen does at a high level, adapted to my reality. It's how an ordinary Brazilian feels watching Neymar play soccer or an ordinary American watching LeBron James in basketball. We want to have fun doing what they do, which is why people play casual basketball in the USA and soccer in Brazil. We are encouraged by the environment to do what the idols of that environment do, even if it's according to our own abilities. So, where are the best players in the World of Tanks Blitz competitive scene in the media? We don't even know them. No one knows who they are. They occasionally give a quick interview on 34 or in 90 after a season, but that's far from creating idols. There's no real role model for World of Tanks Blitz players. Scholars like Roy Baumeister and Mark Leary, in an influential 1995 paper, The Need to Belong, Desire for Interpersonal Attachments as a Fundamental Human Motivation, argued, based on a vast review of empirical evidence, that the need to form and maintain lasting, positive, and significant interpersonal relationships is a fundamental and universal human motivation. This innate drive guides much of our behavior, cognition, and emotions. In the first week I played Counter-Strike 2, my teammates in random matches already helped me feel included. They added me as a friend in the game, and I felt a sense of belonging and welcome. Were there players who berated and cursed at me for being a newcomer and not knowing how to perform functions masterfully? Yes, but that stems much more from their desire to win and the frustration of dealing with a novice preventing that than anything else, and I understand that. These provocations are absolutely normal. I sometimes vehemently reprimand players on my World of Tanks Blitz team whom I've played with for years and who are my personal friends. It is very naive of Wargaming to think that voice chat is a problem because of an occasional argument. This decision not to have voice chat isolates new players from social interactions in the game, whether good or bad. Ultimately, social interaction and the feeling of belonging are inexorable parts of both group formation and the sense of belonging within each formed group. There is absolutely no sense of functional belonging within the current World of Tanks Blitz ecosystem, and this destroys the will of newcomers to stay in the game after playing for a few minutes. It is a game with zero social interaction. I understand that it is a more mobile version of World of Tanks. And it's natural to inherit the same completely tedious and senseless mechanic for newcomers from the PC game, where they are placed on a map without any coordination, trying to land shots and capture bases while playing for themselves. However, Blitz does not need to inherit this, and I'll explain why. A voice chat with 15 versus 15 on a gigantic map is indeed difficult, but this is definitely not a problem in a 7 versus 7 on compact maps like those in World of Tanks Blitz. World of Tanks Blitz basically wastes the opportunity it has by its own nature, the nature of having fewer players and more compact maps that facilitate coordination as a team. 2. The feeling of progress. How do you keep an activity dopaminergic enough, interesting enough, if there are no inherent rewards for the effort expended? All current research on behavior maintenance focuses on dopamine releases from pursuing immediate goals. What sense of mechanical skill progress, rewards for good performance, and map understanding does a newcomer currently have in World of Tanks Blitz when playing multiple public matches? Absolutely none. Wargaming will not be able to retain newcomers in a game without much immediate and frantic action unless it creates a sense of constant progress in mechanical skill and map understanding. Continuing with public matches full of random players who don't even communicate in pursuit of a common goal, victory, will lead the game to ruin. Without competition and a sense of individual or collective progress, it is impossible to sustain a behavior in an increasingly dopamine-dependent world. Let's list the premises and conclusions of the issue. Premise 1: to play in a tournament, you must first join a team, and therefore, joining a team needs to be as easy as possible. Wargaming fails profoundly in this aspect, making it very difficult for a newcomer to join a team through the process of creation, searching, and registration by the team captain in a hidden tab in the game. The solution is simple: create an extended platoon for up to 7 players on the main game screen, so that a group of 3 players who already know each other can be completed with 4 random players. Just like in Counter-Strike, to play a competitive match, you just click the play button on the main screen and then confirm that you are ready to immediately join a team randomly and make new friends. Premise 2: to play as a team, coordination is necessary, and coordination needs to be as easy as possible. Wargaming also fails profoundly in this aspect. It is impossible to coordinate 7 players on a map to perform functions like focus fire, pushing, and holding, among other things, through text chat. This is only possible with voice chat, and this voice chat must be in-game since there are random people on the team. There is no other way to do this other than having players pre-select languages they understand and speak so they can coordinate with each other within the game through a native voice chat. For example, I am a player whose native language is Portuguese, but I am the caller for a team with players who have various different native languages. We understand each other through English. It would be great if everyone spoke Portuguese for me, but in English, I can already coordinate the team and understand what they are saying. So, a pre-selection button for languages I can communicate in would be key to enabling coordination. The mistake of putting 4 English speakers and 3 Spanish speakers on one team, and 4 Spanish speakers and 3 English speakers on the other, cannot be made. The obvious solution, in this case, is to have 7 English speakers against 7 Spanish speakers. Premise 3: to keep playing, the newcomer needs to feel part of the community and see their own progress. The current ranking system for competitive matches in World of Tanks Blitz is great. It's a complete success by Wargaming. It should be the standard for public matches, adding community ranking points based on your contribution to the match. The system is so good that it rewards players who contributed little but are on the winning team, valuing victory, and also rewards players who contributed a lot on the losing team, solving the biggest frustration for average and experienced players in World of Tanks Blitz, having their win rate, main statistic, decreased even when they contributed. This should be the main system of the game, not merely available only at certain times of the day as it is now. Players should have the choice between modes for casual fun, big boss, burning games, etc., that don't count towards the ranking, or playing public matches for ranking points, immediately generating progress feedback. Public matches without this feedback should cease to exist immediately, as they only generate frustration for average and experienced players who almost always abandon the game for this reason, and they don't retain new players because there is no immediate positive or negative reinforcement for them to improve their skills. The game should reward you for your contribution, so that you try to contribute as much as possible in each match to climb a ranking and try to improve more and more. Basically, there is neither positive nor negative reinforcement for the contribution made in public World of Tanks Blitz matches. It can happen that I open the game now, play 20 matches averaging 4,000 damage, and still not win 50% of them. This is very frustrating since I am not rewarded for my contribution but punished in the game's main statistic, the win rate. The main objective of Blitz should be the win rate, but reducing everything to just that, as happens in public matches, only generates frustration, since much of the time your contribution is useless and not quantified, as a lost match, even when dealing 9,000 damage, literally means a punishment to your win rate, which is displayed on your profile. I hate this even being a 70%er player. A win-win situation to make money. The average real money spending of a casual player to feel immersed in the game's atmosphere is not necessarily achieved just by creating new playable content. This idea of having a game with several hundred playable tanks like World of Tanks Blitz, which releases one tank per month, should be just one of the ways the company creates desire in players to spend real money. However, there are other ways to create this desire, and the main one is by working with scarcity. The new meta from the last seasonal tournament was the 116 F3, and from the previous tournament, it was the AMX MLE. My team bought both at auction. For us, this was mandatory because we needed them to compete on equal terms with other teams. In less than 10 minutes, 200 units of the 116 F3 were sold for 27,500 gold, and the miles in the last tournament also sold for 25,000 gold. This means more than 10 million gold was spent in minutes due to a created need, players and teams staying competitive by spending on the new meta. Another way to generate scarcity is through cosmetics with limited durability and availability, as is the case in the market of several games that move billions of dollars with this strategy alone. Players need to understand that spending in the game is an investment, in the sense of staying competitive or showing off something scarce that can be sold later if it remains scarce and desired. It is necessary to create a player-to-player trade system that is profitable for Wargaming itself, which would control the initial availability of playable content or cosmetics but would not necessarily limit itself to just releasing new cosmetics or playable content with a very low purchase percentage for each release to survive financially like now. Instead, each release should generate massive and immediate desire, allowing a player to buy a cosmetic or a tank and then sell it in a marketplace, thus generating the expectation with each launch that at least the money could be recovered later. That is, each release would have a huge percentage of players willing to spend real money out of competitive necessity, playable content, or for speculation, cosmetics. Imagine a beautiful cosmetic promoted by Wat Bijo as being extremely rare, only 2 in the world, and valuable. This would be highly coveted by the community. If Wat Bijo had access to just one unit of this cosmetic and the other was sold at auction by Wargaming, then we would have 2 units, with Wat Bijo being indirectly compensated by the cosmetic's market value. This could also be done through partnerships with artists, athletes, and others. I, for one, would love to have a cosmetic with my country's flag, Brazil, even if it were quite rare. This could also be done by rewarding professional players with new, extremely rare cosmetics, which they could then sell to be financially compensated for their achievement.